I bet you haven't seen this before. As November approaches and another Trump victory looks closer than ever, we're revisiting a funny moment on The View from back in 2016, where an audience member stood up to say with no apologies that she's voting for Trump. It's a clip that gives you such a great perspective on today, so subscribe to the channel and watch this incredible exchange before I tell you more about it.
There's one woman up there who's a Trump supporter. Stand up and show yourself. There she is.
Don't make her feel bad.
She wants to be seen. She's clapping when we're talking about Trump, and I think we appreciate that you're here.
People always ask, who is a Trump supporter? Could you explain who you are so we can understand?
She needs a camera. There she goes.
No, I'm not explaining it. I don't get into politics. I just feel that we do need a change. I voted for Obama. I'll be the first state. I think it was the biggest mistake of my life.
Why?
Okay, I'll tell you
why was it a mistake?
I work in a hospital. No, I work in a hospital. You want to talk about Obamacare? What it has done to the hospital systems and putting hospitals out of business. You can't get an authorization for Medicaid for any type of treatment that a patient. You have no idea what goes on behind the scenes. Just like at any other job, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes. So when you look at that, I don't agree with that.
So would you like single payer care like Bernie Sanders says?
No, I don't agree with Bernie Sanders either.
So you don't want any, you want everybody should pay through the nose.
You should have insurance through your company. I do agree with that.
See.
Okay, I do.
What about pre-existing conditions? How do you feel about that?
They should be covered.
They should be covered. Okay,
Absolutely.
So that's part of Obamacare. He changed that.
Yes, but there's certain things that weren't changed that we don't see behind the scenes. Like I said, wherever you work, you know what goes on.
Okay.
You know what this clip reveals above all else? The Democrats have ruled the country for 12 of the last 16 years, and there was no scapegoat or boogeyman of a Donald Trump that a show like The View could even use. That's evident from how Raven-Symoné asked this audience member about what it even meant for her to support Donald Trump. And the overarching truth made a lot of sense when she said, "We need a businessman in office." The 8-year run of Barack Obama under a Democrat-led governmental setup was more than enough time to leave the party with no excuses about what it wanted to achieve. And among many other aspects of Obama's legacy, one consistent theme with him was the government interference in the free market across various sectors. Of course, every time it was justified under a political or social pretext, but much like the problems with Obamacare that this audience member pointed out, there were similar cosmetic changes on the economy like artificial price controls and raising minimum wages that were not a product of a genuinely stronger economy. And the way that government action to solve one problem can create more problems was demonstrated when the state overdealt its hand in the medical sector. It's often said about health insurance in the country that there are 3 important factors according to which healthcare programs like Obamacare are judged. Those are affordability, quality, and accessibility. The fact that the financial bandwidth of both the government and the private sector are ultimately limited means it's at best possible to have 2 of these criteria met, but not all 3. The 2 that Obamacare tried to meet were affordability and accessibility, even by mandating health insurance coverage by law for all individuals on one end, and then trying to control the price they pay for it on the other. And perhaps that's the inside story of what this questioner is talking about, giving you a glimpse of how even the best-sounding policies ultimately have cascading effects on an industry as a whole, like in this case, putting a small hospital out of business.
I personally think that maybe we need a businessman because, like you said, every 4 years we always complain about people.
So you would like him to have his taxes everybody should see his taxes, right?
I don't think his taxes have anything to do with the presidential. I'm sorry, I don't.
But you say like I said, he's a businessman. That's what he's putting out there. So
you can see them, but I don't think that has to do with what he has to do. I don't think. Do I agree with everything he says? No. Absolutely
I have
not.
a question for you. Do you feel like his job as a reality star has swayed your vote, or does that even net at all?
Absolutely not.
Because that's what people speculate.
No, I don't watch reality.
Okay.
That's nonsense.
Are you working now, honey?
Actually, no. I got an injury, so I'm not working for the past year. But I've seen it all.
But you said you worked in healthcare, or
yes.
She works in healthcare.
You know, my brother. Good point.
Thank you very much.
My brother-in-laws are.
Unemployed for a year with 4 children, has put them through school. She's my sister. I'm very proud of her.
That has nothing to do with anything. But as a social worker, that's what I did. Yeah. I could see where money is needed and we're not getting it. My husband works for not-for-profit with homeless. There is so much more money that is needed that we're not getting.
And you feel that he's going to
And Obama stopped a lot of things. The mayor did love.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sit down.
That is such a tired trope with what Raven-Symoné said. They are somehow trying to cram Donald Trump's political success so far into the media persona, but now with the benefit of hindsight, it looks like two different lives for him and two different avenues for success. And while of course we've got a few weeks left before we find out the mere fact that Donald Trump is still a political force, right at the center of national politics 8 years on tells you that his 2016 victory wasn't a fluke. By the way, on the issue of taxation, Donald Trump himself is a bit of a curious case for just how frustratingly clear he is on the matter. Trump makes no bones about the fact that he fights to pay as little taxes as legally possible.
When are you going to release your tax returns?
Probably over the next few months. They're being worked on right now.
What's the holdup?
They're very big tax returns. The biggest, I guarantee you this, the biggest ever in the history of what we're doing. So it's a very complicated stuff, but we'll be releasing them.
Will people be surprised at the rate that you pay?
I think they'll be surprised at how little I pay.
Lower or higher than expected?
They're going to be surprised at how little I pay. I fight like hell not to pay a lot of tax. And you know what? Every politician probably does. I watched others where they say, oh, I want to pay tax. I fight like hell not to pay tax. I hate the way the government spends my money.
And if you remember back in the 2016 election campaign, the Trump tax returns from decades ago were being dug up by reporters and media personalities as the first in a list of attack vectors against him, and they were supposed to work in theory because any average person looking at those returns could tell that Trump was paying a lot less taxes than they likely expected. A businessman tries to pay as little tax as possible, and no capitalist that tells you that they love paying their money to the government is telling you the truth. That's why a kind of raw honesty about it seemed appealing to some people, because Trump's tax returns across the years were indeed a confusing maze of navigating through the tax code to come out with as much of his money as possible. Yet Trump put a clever spin on it, especially during a debate with Hillary Clinton, questioning why someone like Hillary, who's been in and out of the halls of power for 30 years, hadn't done anything about the tax loopholes used by Trump, as well as her special interest in donor class. And that's one of those classic moments from the debate that truly disarmed her like nothing else, because it was true.
Did you use that $916 million loss to avoid paying personal federal income taxes?
Of course I do. Of course I do. And so do all of her donors, or most of her donors. I know many of her donors. Her donors took massive tax write-offs.
So have you not paid personal federal income taxes?
A lot of my write-off was depreciation and other things that Hillary, as a senator, allowed. And she'll always allow it, because the people that give her all this money, they want it. That's why. See, I understand the tax code better than anybody that's ever run for president. Hillary Clinton, and it's extremely complex, Hillary Clinton has friends that want all of these provisions, including they want the carried interest provision, which is very important to Wall Street people, but they really want the carried interest provision, which I believe Hillary's leaving. It's very interesting why she's leaving carried interest. But I will tell you that, number one, I pay tremendous numbers of taxes. I absolutely used it, and so did Warren Buffett, and so did George Soros, and so did many of the other people that Hillary is getting money from. Now, I won't mention their names because they're rich, but they're not famous, so we won't make them famous.
Can you say how many years you have avoided paying personal federal income taxes?
No, but I pay tax, and I pay federal tax, too. But I have a write-off. A lot of it's depreciation, which is a wonderful charge. I love depreciation. You know, she's given it to us. Hey, if she had a problem, for 30 years she's been doing this, Anderson. I say it all the time. She talks about health care. Why didn't she do something about it? She talks about taxes. Why didn't she do something about it? She doesn't do anything about anything other than talk. With her, it's all talk and no action.
That's just a small snapshot of what helped Donald Trump break out after an 8-year term for the Democrats under Barack Obama and get over 60 million votes from the country in his first attempt at running for office. As for The View, we may have to see similar scenes against this November, and it's certainly going to be an interesting watch. Let me know in the comments how you think Donald Trump himself has evolved over the last 8 years, and what a potential next term for him could mean for the media and the country at large.